picking up. For example, the schools in particular I want us to focus in on are Presidential Meadows and Shadow Glen. Notice their capacities here, and as we move from year to year, as we are able to enroll more and more students, we're seeing that enrollments are getting larger here. However, with a K-8 campus coming on board with a capacity of 800, this is what we see happening with those campus numbers. They start to decrease. We don't see that drastic rise because if this trend continues, we'll be well over 700 and be very close to 800 students plus. But as we start transitioning our K-8 campus, our enrollment numbers, all of a sudden, we start seeing a definite drop. We're also looking at impacts of our charter schools because, again, as charter schools come into our school district, we may lose some students to our charter schools, and that will also have an impact as well. We don't want to lose any students at all. We want to keep all of our students. So again, we must maintain innovation and innovative programs and schools within our district. Let's look at our middle schools for a minute. As we look at Decker Middle School, Mena Middle, and New Tech, we notice that the capacities start changing. As we look at Mena Middle School, well over the 800 capacity. As we look at Decker, we're also seeing that increase in numbers. But when we start bringing our K-8 campus on board, we start seeing that definite drop in numbers. And that's what we are also helping to ease the overcrowding that we see at these elementary schools and also at the middle schools. So as we look at the elementary schools that are involved here, we notice here that in 2021, at Shadow Glen, we're looking at 7, and then in 2022, 750, right? And then, of course, getting to overcapacity in another year or two. Very same thing with Presidential Meadows. We see the rise in numbers from 2021 at 685, then they start getting to 7, and before long, in another year after that, we got 840. And definitely at Mena Middle School. So with our K-8 configuration, we would be able to help ease, again, overcrowding at both elementary and at secondary level. Now, I want us to hear from Ms. Beth Wing. She is the principal of the K-8 campus in,
I looked at those buildings.
So, excuse me. She's the principal of a K-8 campus in Dallas Independent School District, and she'll share her experiences with us in a very short clip.
I looked at those buildings. My building was built in 1954. It was originally an elementary school, then it was a rec center, and then when Dallas ISD decided to reopen it as a school again in the early 90s. So we're a pretty old building, but the way that we have separation is shaped like an E. And so,
excuse me, experiencing some technical difficulties here. Excuse me a second. Hold on. Let's start again. Okay.
I looked at those buildings. My building was built in 1954. It was originally an elementary school, then it was a rec center, and then when Dallas ISD decided to reopen it as a school again in the early 90s. So we're a pretty old building, but the way that we have separation is shaped like an E. And so we have wings. We have a primary wing, early elementary, lower elementary, and then middle school are separate. They do share the cafeteria, the gym, and the auditorium. And really, we keep the separation by the schedules and the procedures. They go in different doors and things like that, but kind of like what Dr. Spencer said, that's not a huge focus all the time because there's a lot of really good things that come from them sometimes seeing each other. The big kids really are good at mentoring the little kids. And I do think that they're very aware of the younger kids watching them. It does really motivate them to rise to the occasion and model really the behavior, you know. So we do keep them separate with schedules and things like that. Things to consider in a master schedule are Like we share a music teacher, a PE teacher, and an art teacher that has to teach pre-K through 8. So that's, those spaces are spaces that all the kids use then. So, but it's just in building schedule. That idea, it doesn't be that our parent, and like the idea that that you're going to put your student somewhere, your child somewhere, and that they're going to get to stay there for 8 or 9 years is very reassuring to a family, I think. And I think that born out of that is such a community spirit of, a really close-knit family environment, which I think that's what we need to raise our kids.
Okay, thank you.
I look at those buildings. My building was.
Okay, so as we look at our campus here, and we look, let me make sure I get this up and running. Not sure what happened there. 1 second. Okay. As we look at our proposed K-8 campus, what we're seeing here is that we would have 2 wings built, or kindergarten and 6th grade wing that would be built first to provide immediate relief to the surrounding campuses. Next, we will also look at building wings ahead of the cohort. So we start with our kindergarten or 6th grade wings being built first to provide immediate relief to other schools. And then the construction will remain ahead of the cohort. So as we increase and we bring in our 1st graders and so on, or 7th graders, we will have that construction happening ahead of the time those students will be coming on board. The school will grow gradually without pulling existing students from their school. So there'll be a gradual growth force or a gradual increase for students. Also notice here, that's very, very important. We'll also build common areas first, and this will include cafeterias, library, administrative spaces. And again, very, very importantly, $43 million dedicated from our 2020 bond for construction. That's going to be that's very important. Okay. As we look at also our results, overall, we have seen that there's a positive sort of move towards the K-8 campus. Not a lot of negativity, but it's very, very positive. Most ask, I am likely to want to learn more about K-8 school designs? Absolutely. And then I'll take one more. Again, leaning on the positive end, I believe MEA ISC scholars will benefit from being offered instruction at a K-8 campus. So again, there's some definite positive trends that are happening there. And at this time, I'd like to stop the presentation and take some questions from our chat. So again, let's open the chat. And let's see what questions we have coming on board. Mr. Vidal, do you want to take us through that?
Yes, sir, sure will. So as we mentioned at the start, and thank you to everyone who has just joined us, we will take an opportunity towards the end of our meeting to take a few questions from our attendees. You can submit all of those questions in the chat or via the question and answer feature, and we'll attempt to get to as many of those questions as we can. So I believe that we already do have one question in the chat, and Ms. Anita Zavala asks, where will this campus be located? And I'm sorry if I missed that part she mentions.
Yes, a decision has not been made on where the campus is located. That is being looked at the moment. And again, the board will be giving us direction on that locations, but nothing has been decided yet.
And Dr. Yearwood, just before we receive any further questions, were you done with your presentation with regard to these surveys that were being presented?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because at this time, I'd like to just show all of our viewers who are in attendance this afternoon the bonds and construction dashboard that has been in the works as well. So to everyone, I'd like to share my screen at this time. So can everyone see here on the left-hand side, we've got the Manor ISD bonds and construction dashboard. Let me see if I can scale it down so we can see the full view of the page. Can you all see that?
Yes, yes, we can. Yes, sir.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so as you can see here on the page, we've got the Manor ISD 2019 bond projects dashboard. This is going to be a basic dashboard where all of our constituents, yourself, the Manor community, can go on and find all the relevant information with regard to all of the bonds and construction projects currently in the district. This one specifically does make mention of all of the projects under the 2019 bond. My team and I are currently under the direction of Dr. Yearwood with the assistance from our business office are currently building all of this information to make certain that you all have at your fingertips within a matter of a few clicks all of the information with regard to the current budgets, committed amounts, remaining balances for every construction and bond project throughout the district. So I'll highlight currently where this will be located on our Manor ISD website. So as you can see from this current dashboard itself, there's a quick button here that says the website. So this will work vice versa. So you can get to our website, to the dashboard, and from the dashboard to our website. So currently this is manorisd.net. So you can go ahead and navigate over to departments and then bonds and construction. And then from bonds and construction, you'll see that we've created the 2019 bond dashboard tab. And currently we do have this under construction tab, just because, as I've mentioned, this dashboard is currently still under construction as we continue to populate it with all of the relevant information from all of the construction projects currently found within the district. But beyond that, on this web page, you'll be able to find what we've created and called the Bond Community Hub. So you can currently log on to this current web page here and find all of the information from past and completed current projects that are currently going on from within the district itself. So like I mentioned, you can click on the button once it goes live on the dashboard, but just to walk you through what is actually found on the dashboard itself. So take a look and kind of follow me through here as I kind of walk you through what you can see on the dashboard. So as you can see, we have a drop down for you to be able to select what campuses are available. Currently, we only see Manor New Tech and Shadowglen, as those are the only campuses that I have pre-populated currently. But you'll be able to choose between the timelines, and you'll see that I've got them color coded over on the right-hand side as well to denote phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and all of them have the corresponding phase numbers to say 1 is design phase, 2 is bid phase, 3 is the award phase, 4 in this blue color is the construction phase, and 5 in that amber phase is the complete phase. So as we continually work to update this bond dashboard, this timeline that you see in this project budget window here in the middle will actually be color coded to represent where in this timeline, as you can see down here, the dates represented, where in the process it will represent the bond phase per the respective projects. And you can see there's a little bubble that pops up that lets you know the duration of each one. And you can see I've got the campus refresh. This is over at Shadowglen. This is Manor New Tech High School concession stand, the proposed timeline. And you can see down below that the actual timeline. You'll be able to differentiate between what is actually proposed to us, the Manor ISD staff, and what we bring to the board, and then the actual timeline, as you can tell based upon weather and other things that may become factors moving forward in the construction process that may change our timeline. And us, as we want to be as transparent as possible, we'll let you know all of those changes from within the dashboard itself. As you can see, there is just a disclaimer down at the bottom that says that this disclaimer and all of the materials presented here are for informational purposes only. Manor ISD is making a good faith effort to provide accurate and current information to all of our constituents about what is presented on this dashboard. So we claim any responsibility for typographical errors and any accuracy of the information that is presented. So if you're aware of something that is misrepresented or inaccurately shown here, make us aware. I've included a link here to the 2019 interest area on Let's Talk so that you can let me know, let my team know, or Dr. Yearwood and his team know of any inaccuracies that are currently presented on our site with regard to construction and bond projects that are currently presented, because we want to make certain that you guys are aware and know of what your tax dollars are going towards and being used to. I've been calling this a labor of love, and Dr. Yearwood and I have had plenty of weekly meetings to continually update this. And as we continually roll out this, we hope to have this in your hands and posted on the website, hopefully Within the next couple of weeks, there have been just a couple of things in the last few weeks that have set us back, but we continually work on this project, and we'll keep you apprised as a committee, as our constituents, of what is going on with regard to bond and construction projects. So Dr. Yearwood, that was all I had. Do we have any questions about our bonds and construction dashboard, or for the presentation in general? Please put them in the chat and I'll begin to read those off at this time. So meanwhile, we wait for a couple of the questions to come in. Dr. Yearwood, you did mention, and just so that you can kind of explain to some of our viewers who might have joined us late in the meeting, would you mind just giving us just a high-level overview of the introduction, just explaining, how the district itself hasn't made a decision just yet to solidify the selection of a K-8 project?
Yes, absolutely. There's been no decision made in terms of the K-8 campus. Right now, we're just presenting the information. And again, I want to be very, very clear. There's been no decision made about a K-8 campus. I think.
Good afternoon, Dr. Spencer.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Thank you so much for sticking around through the entirety of our presentation. I'd like to introduce to everyone this evening, Dr. Andre D. Spencer, the Superintendent for Manor Independent School District. Dr. Spencer, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule this evening to join us this afternoon. The floor is yours, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Dr. Yearwood and Mr. Vidal. Greatly appreciate the presentation that you guys are part of delivering here this evening. And I just want to say good evening to everyone who has the opportunity to join us this evening. I hope the discussion and conversation is beneficial for you, to give you insight on just the thinking behind the K-8, as well as the thinking behind the middle school, if that becomes an option. So what are the pros and cons for both? And then helping us to come to the best resolution here for our district. So ultimately, that's the plan and the purpose of these meetings. So we want to make sure that you have all of the information that you need in order to make the most informed decision around helping us to make the most informed decision. And I just want to say thank you for taking out time in your busy schedule to join us and to hear the information that has been shared and will be shared. And as you proceed and as we proceed with any activities beyond this particular day, if you think of questions, comments, or thoughts that you like to share, please feel free to reach out to us so that you will have the opportunity to provide us with the information that will help us to make the best decision for our scholars. And so with that, I'll just say thank you again, and please have a great evening.
Thank you for that, sir. At this time, we'll entertain any questions that might be presented in the chat. And as I've mentioned, we will take the time to answer any questions that anybody has at this time. So thank you for those that have already submitted a question. Ms. Moore asks, good evening. How many scholars do we expect to house at the K-8 campus, and how do you plan to ensure grade level balance?
So we are planning to have approximately 800 scholars at the K-8 campus. And of course, we're looking at 500 K-5, 300 6 through 8 students. That's the recommendation at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Yearwood.
Mr. Vidal, are there any additional questions?
Currently, there are not, sir. I currently have a poll open. We encourage you to respond to the questions in the poll and also provide us with some of your feedback and some of your thoughts with regard to what was presented in our presentation this evening as well. We want to make certain that we capture your individual feedback to make certain that we're making the best decisions for Manor ISD moving forward with regard to the educational options presented to our stakeholders. We have a follow-up question by Ms. Moore. It says, will this campus be completely special needs inclusive?
Go ahead, Dr. Yearwood, if you want.
Yes. As we look at our campuses, we are very, one of, again, our strong points is making sure that we build equity. And yes, our special needs students will have an opportunity to attend the K-8 middle school, absolutely.
The K-8 levels, elementary and middle, yes.
So thank you, Ms. Moore, for submitting both of those questions. So again, I invite everyone just to submit your questions via the chat. I thank everyone for their time this afternoon for hearing our presentation. And I do see that Ms. Claudia de Jesus has submitted a question that asks, when will we vote on the construction of a K-8 campus and when will the construction begin?
Okay, so at this point, go ahead, sir.
So in thinking about not necessarily a vote, because the vote comes via our Board of Trustees, but what our Board of Trustees have asked us to do is to get input from the community. So engaging in the survey will allow for you to provide input, not necessarily a vote, but allow for you to give your feedback so that trustees can take into consideration your feedback. And with regards to the construction beginning, Dr. Yearwood, I believe we're looking at the latter part of 2022 with the beginning of construction. That date can very much change where it could be sooner, but at this particular point, it's projected to be the latter part of 2022 with the start date for construction. And I see we have some questions here. Will parents get to choose their preferred campus, or will the overflow of kids be pre-chosen by MSID? And so I'm anticipating that this is, will parents have the option of choosing their campus district-wide if scholars are attending Shadow Glen perhaps, and Presidential Meadows perhaps, and Manor Middle School perhaps, where the overcrowding may exist at the particular school, or the overflow may exist at a particular school. And if the our trustees decide that K-8 is the model that they choose to go, that scholars will be identified based on parent selection to attend the K-8 campus. And if that is the question, the answer to that question is yes. Parents will have choice as to which campus they would prefer for their scholar to attend. And this is something that we want to do as a district overall, as to if it's a K-8 or a middle school that's in this particular space. We want parents to have the option of choosing which campus is best for them and their scholar. And there's another question.
Yes, we have several questions in the chat as well as in the question and answer feature. So I'll begin with those in the chat. So Mr. Shedd, pardon me if that's incorrect, but he notes, it was noted earlier that we don't know the location of the school. If we move forward with this building, with building this campus, however, it was also said land was donated. Where is the land located that was donated?
Yeah,
So
yes. Go ahead.
Can
yes,
I? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So with regards to the location for this campus, we do not have a defined space for the location at this campus, but based on the need for the region, we are looking very closely at locations within the Shadow Glen Presidential Meadows Manor middle school area, because that is where we're seeing the overcrowding occurring. And so we want to be able to ensure that the campuses within that region of those three campuses, we can absorb some space potentially by opening a campus in that vicinity. With regards to donated land, we do have donated land in our district. That donated land is in the Wild Horse area or region of Manor. And so that is not necessarily in the ready space for Presidential Meadows, Shadow Glen, and Manor Middle School region. However, this donated land in Wild Horse is donated land for an elementary school, because we're seeing significant growth in that region as well. And currently, scholars within that region are going to Lagos Elementary School, and Lagos Elementary School is one of other schools that's projected a couple of years out, longer than Shadow Glen and Presidential Meadows, but they are also projected to become overcrowded as well. And the elementary school that will go into the Wild Horse area will absorb some scholars from Lagos Elementary School to allow them to have more space and having scholars to go to the elementary school that will be in the Wild Horse area.
Thank you, sir. And there's a follow-up question in the chat asking, will there be a lottery for the new K-8 campus like you all have at New Tech High and New Tech Middle?
And the answer to that question is no, there will be no lottery. This is looking at, right now, we know that we have the lottery at the New Tech middle and high school, and we're anticipating that that will continue. However, we want to make certain that our schools are based on choice options for parents and scholars.
Thank you, sir. So I'll continue over to the question submitted via the question and answer feature. So we have a question here that says, since most campuses follow a specific learning environment like PBL, IB, for those that don't know the acronyms, that is project-based learning and international baccalaureate and fine arts, then how would this campus be classified?
Yes, and so with that particular question, when it comes down to instructional or academic program that will be in the school, that will be a decision that will be made via scholars and parents and administration that's coming into that particular campus. So right now, there is no defined program model that has been spelled out. Of course, there are a multitude of options that are available, but one has not been defined because we really like to get that input from the stakeholders that will be attending the school.
Thank you, sir. We have a subsequent question that asks, will students select this campus with a lottery or by a specific zone?
So it's not going to be either lottery nor specific zone. It's looking at open enrollment. This will be an option. So if parents are electing to send their scholars to a K-8 or to the middle school campus, whichever one is defined or designed, then parents will have that option available to them. But it will not be lottery, nor will it be a selection criteria outlined.
Thank you, sir. And we have a follow-up question that asks, would this K-8 campus be open to all students from across the district or only to those affected by the overcrowding?
Yeah, great question. And so in this particular case, again, we want to make certain that our scholars have the option and the choice of attending campuses. So parents will have the option to choose if they would like to send their scholars to this particular campus. And if they elect to do that, then that's totally their choice. If parents elect to not send their scholars to this school, then parents will have the choice of choosing other schools.
Okay. And now moving back to the question submitted in the chat. So we have a question here that asks, why does the district use a lottery system?
And right now, that's the approach that has been used for our New Tech middle and high school to allow for entry due to space availability. So the most fair and equitable way is to engage in a lottery system. Now, although it's identified as a lottery system, the lottery system still allows for us to have some equitizing across the board to ensure that we have an equal distribution or an adequate distribution. I want to say equal, an adequate distribution that represents the district attending that specific campus. For example, if we have 20% of our scholars that are African American, 65% of our scholars are Latinx scholars, then we want to have that representation in our lottery schools as well.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Zavala asks a follow-up as well, asking, how will the younger students be kept separate from the older students? Will there be a same entry time for kinder versus 8th grade?
And so generally, and we haven't gotten into the details of how the campus will be structured as far as their entry and dismissal time, but on average, just general practice and research base for how K-8s are actually implemented. The elementary campus generally starts before or after the middle school campus so that they do have a staggered entry and a staggered exit time. That staggering does allow for middle school scholars to be able to pick up their elementary siblings if that becomes a need for that particular family. So we recognize that there may be a staggered entry and exit time. However, the distance between or the time between the entry point for elementary and the entry point for middle school will not be 2 hours or will not be 1 hour, because we want to be able to ensure that scholars in the middle school level will have an opportunity to be able to pick up their elementary school siblings if that becomes a need for that particular family. Now, with regards to internal separations, each of the grade level groups are broken up into specific wings of the building. So you will have your primary wing where you will see kindergarten through grade 2. You have your intermediate wing where you will see 3 through 5, and then you have your middle school wing where you will see 6 through 8.
Okay, thank you, sir. And there are a couple of questions related to transportation. So I'm going to amend a couple and then provide a separate response for the other one. So we have one that asks, will buses be provided for campuses? And if so, will kinder ride with the older grade levels? And if so, will it be provided to all scholars regardless of where they live in the district?
So transportation is expected to be provided to all scholars regardless of their location of residence within the district. We want to, again, provide options for our scholars, and in providing those options, a part of that is transportation. Now, with regards to who's on the bus simultaneously, we will not have kindergartners riding the bus with middle schoolers unless potentially that middle schooler is that kindergartner's sibling and they're bringing them to school. Generally, the way that it is designed, the elementary school scholars are on separate buses. Then the middle school scholars, although they may be going to the exact same campus, they're not going to the exact same entry doors at the campus. So going back to what I was speaking about the wings for the early childhood wing, pre-K through 2, intermediate wing, 3 through 5, middle school wing, 6 through 8, each of those wings will have a separate entry point into the campus. Although it's one campus, it would have separate entry points. Each of those entry points will have separate transportation to allow for them to get to that particular entry point, unless it is like I was explaining. There's a situation where we have a middle school scholar that has to not transport, but that has to escort their elementary school sibling to and from school, and then those provisions would be made for that family.
Thank you, sir. And there's a follow-up question to transportation asking also, will there be a transfer form / approval form to attend the new K-8 campus if, say, your local elementary is Pioneer Crossing?
Tell me that question one more time. I'm sorry. Will there be what again?
Yes, sir, no problem. It reads, also, will there be a transfer form or approval form to attend the new K-8 campus if, say, your local elementary is Pioneer Crossing Elementary?
So, and I'm going to make an assumption here that the question is taking into consideration that the scholar that's looking for the transfer currently attends Pioneer Crossing and wants to go to K-8. And in that particular case, yes, there will be a transfer process in place. And so again, the option is still available, but there is a transfer process in place to allow for a scholar to transfer from Pioneer Crossing to the K-8 campus, just like there's a transfer process in place to allow for a scholar to go from Pioneer Crossing to Blue Bonnet Trails or whichever other school exists in our district.
Okay. And will sports be considered for this campus, or will they have to travel to a campus that provides the sports?
So sports will be available at the middle school level, just as it is at all of our middle schools in the district. Currently, sports are available for grades 7 and 8, and it will continue to be available for grades 7 and 8 at any school that has 7th and 8th grade in our district. And of course, high school, but in this case, we're not speaking about high schoolers.
Thank you, sir. And we received one more question that asks, would students attending this campus be considered in a district transfer, an in-district transfer, pardon me, and how will enrollment be determined for families new to the district if this is a school of choice?
And so I'm going to answer the first part of that question around the transfer process. Will they be able to transfer? I believe that's what you're asking. And correct
They're
me if I'm
asking if they would
incorrect.
be considered an, oh, pardon me, sir. They're asking if they would be considered an in-district transfer.
And the answer to that question is yes. For example, if a scholar is attending, and I'll go back to the Pioneer Crossing example, if a scholar is attending Pioneer Crossing, the parent wants the scholar to attend the K-8, yes, there will be an in-district transfer that occurs there because both of those campuses are in our district. And the same would exist for any campus in our district if there's a district school to district school transfer. The answer would be yes in that case. And there was a second part to that question as well.
Yes, sir. The second part asks, how will enrollment be determined for families new to the district if this is a school of choice?
So it would be the same as if a parent was to move into any location in our district and the parent chooses to enroll their scholar into a school in our district. We have an external enrollment process, and so parents will have that choice to be able to say that this is the school that I'm electing for my child to attend, and our goal is to be able to oblige the wish of that parent. And so something that has not been a part of these conversations that we are putting in place for next year is what we're calling a welcome center, and this will be the Manor ISD Family Welcome Center, where our parents will be able to go for we call it one-stop shop, for anything that you may need involving our district, including transfers. So at that particular location, if a parent enters and the parent says, I'm new to the district, this is where I live, and I want to know your options for the schools that you have available. We will have individuals that will be able to educate our parents, new and seasoned, to our district about the schools that are in our district so that they can make the choice that's best for them and their scholar. Once they make that choice, then the parents will be allowed entry into that particular school, with the exception of our lottery. campuses, because our lottery campuses still will have to undergo the lottery and wait list process in order to gain entry into those campuses.
Thank you, sir. And we have a question here in the chat that says, on a side note, who could I speak to or where to start regarding starting bowling as a sport in middle/high school within Manor ISD?
Yes. Doctor, you want to see you smiling. Well, we know you like tennis, Dr. Yearwood. So to answer this question, what we have instituted recently is Dr. Harvey, who is the former principal over at the Manor Alternative Program. We have since moved him into a role as a principal on special assignment here centrally to be able to support with exactly what Mr. Sheard is speaking about here, with establishing partnerships specific to our secondary schools, our middle schools and high schools. So to answer that question, it would be Dr. Harvey would be the individual to reach out to, Dr. Harvey and Dr. Gross. And Mr. Vidal, if you want to include Dr. Harvey and Dr. Gross's email address in the chat, please feel free to do so.
Yes, sir. I'll make sure to put that in the chat shortly. We've received another question via the question and answer feature as well that says, if the campus reaches capacity, will families be turned away?
So our goal is not to turn away any parent who chooses to attend a particular school. However, and this is all hypothetical, if we have a situation where a campus has a capacity of 800 and there are currently 900 scholars in that school, yes, we will have to make the tough decision and not allow any more entry, place a moratorium on the campus, which means we cannot allow for any more scholars to attend that particular campus, but we will allow parents to be able to make a second choice for where they would like to see their scholars to attend. We have not had that issue in our district to this point. We're not anticipating that we will have that issue going forward, but I do want to put it out there that if by chance the circumstance that I've just explained comes about, we would have to place a moratorium on the campus so that we don't exceed or go well beyond the capacity of the campus, which could impact negatively the academic progress that could be made at the campus.
Thank you, sir. And we've got one more question here in the chat that reads, what is the max amount of students allowed in a K-8 school?
So in general, I'm presuming that the question is speaking to, there is no max amount in general. In my experiences, I've seen K-8 campuses that had up to 1,500 scholars. That is not what we're planning to do in Manor ISD. For us, this particular campus will have a capacity of 800. Right now, that is the model that's planning to be designed, a capacity of 800. But in general, there isn't a capacity or a limit. It depends on the size of the campus.
Thank you, sir. So in the chat for everyone, I've just included contact information for Dr. Gross and Dr. Harvey as well. So feel free to send your messages over to them, myself, Dr. Spencer, or Dr. Yearwood with regard to the programmatic options in sports, and we'll be able to explore those options as well. Do we have any other questions that are submitted at this time? Because I don't currently see any in our question and answer feature or in the chat. So keeping in mind at time, it is closer to 6:30. So I invite everyone who has not had an opportunity to submit a question, please do so at this time. We'll entertain any questions that are submitted this evening. Any question that we don't have the opportunity to ask, you can follow up with us via email and we'll provide those responses to you directly.
Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. It was a pleasure to have you. I hope that you've gained some insight into what Manor ISD hopes to do for the future of our scholars and for Dr. Spencer's vision for our district and bringing a K-8 campus to Manor ISD. So thank you all for joining us this evening. And with that, I'll close it up. Dr. Spencer, do you have any other closing remarks?
I would just like to say thank you to everyone for participating this evening and engaging in the conversation. And thank you for your very detailed and thoughtful questions. I hope that we were able to provide you with the responses to help you to get your questions answered regarding this experience that we'd like to bring to our scholars.
So we did receive one last minute question that asked, will there be another session like this for more input? And the answer to that is yes, we will have another subsequent session to provide our community with more information. Stay tuned to the Manor ISD website and the Manor ISD social media, where I'll be sharing information directly with information about when the next K-8 community forum meeting will be.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So thank you to everyone. We appreciate you for joining us this evening. Thank you, Dr. Spencer and Dr. Yearwood and Mr. Brown for interpreting the meeting.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Mr. Vidal,
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Alrighty, y'all. Thank you all so much. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.